Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Scoreboard on this Friday. I'm your host Conrad Iacobellis, and we have a great show for you just like always. On today's show, we're going to be checking out Wasatch boys soccer. They had a big game versus Maple Mountain coming off of that big game against Park City. So we're going to see if the Wasatch boys can keep their undefeated record going. And then Ryan Kostecka caught up with Sarah Hendrickson. She is a newly retired American ski jumper, and he asked Sarah basically what's in for the future for her and some of her favorite moments from being an American ski jumper. And then last but not least, we're going to check out Park City boys lacrosse. They're coming off two heartbreaking defeats, one against Corner Canyon, who is one of the top teams in Utah, and American Fork, which was kind of an upset on American Fork's part. Park City lacrosse took on Springville, so we're going to see if they could bounce back and get in the W column after their two losses. But first, let's check out the boys soccer down in Wasatch. This was kind of an opposite of the game that was on Saturday versus Park City. This was a dominant victory by Wasatch. They won this game 3-0. For Wasatch, Taylor Drummer, number 7, scored 2 goals, and Tyson Myers, number 3, scored 1 goal. And Wasatch had 3 goals the entire game. I believe in the first half they had around 7 or so shots. Maple Mountain had, I believe, 3 or 4 shots the entire game. This was an absolutely dominant game by Wasatch. They just controlled the game. I mean, this was purely Wasatch setting the momentum, setting the tempo. This is one of Maple Mountain's only shots, and that came off of a penalty. But it's absolutely insane. Last time I talked about Wasatch soccer was against the Park City game, and I said, you know, one thing I noticed is Wasatch is a very good defensive team, and they showed that here. And the thing that they also showed versus Maple Mountain is the fact that they are not a selfish team. They pass around the ball. They continue to communicate the entire time. I mean, the goalie's setting up the defense. The defenders are setting up the midfielders. The midfielders are setting up the forwards, and even the forwards are communicating with the midfields if they're passing the ball back. Wasatch looks absolutely good this year. In fact, they move, after this victory, they move to a record of 7-0. They are number 1 in their region, in Region 8, and they are number 1 in 5A. To put this into perspective, Park City, who lost to Wasatch, is 6-1. Park City is tied for second in 5A and second in Region 8. Brighton is also tied with Park City at a record of 6-1. Wasatch is the top dog, being undefeated, and they're doing it in dominant ways. If you saw last episode, we talked about the Park City game. Wasatch was up 3-0, I believe, in that game. They were up high. Park City had to come back and win. In this game, you know, Wasatch won 3-0, and they were absolutely dominant. And it's kind of, it's weird because when you see a dominant team like Wasatch, all the other teams just look flat. And you know, this isn't a knock on Maple Mountain at all, but Maple Mountain almost looked lethargic compared to Wasatch. Wasatch was just attacking the ball. They were setting up their players when they needed to. They were going throughout the entire field during all possessions. I mean, you can see I'm having to follow them around on the camera all the time because they're just passing back and forth. There's not a selfish player on that team. They are continuously trying to help everybody out, but also they seem to just be making plays and seem to be at the right time and the right place. And you know, they're making plays for themselves. You can see they're surrounding the ball. They're continuously, there's 3 or 4 Wasatch players always in the area. You know, there's a few Maple Mountain players, 1 or 2 around the ball. Wasatch swarms the ball. This team is looking solid. This team is doing a great job, and you know, I'm not going to say they're going to go undefeated the entire time because that's very difficult to go undefeated, especially in a game like soccer. But you know, this Wasatch team is just doing great down in Heber. Coach Jarend Hendry has this team, you know, this is a well-oiled machine. All the cogs are running in this machine, and they're doing such a good job to where Wasatch almost just makes everyone else look like kids. It looks like adults versus kids almost when they're playing soccer. And we're actually going to hear from Coach Hendry to hear about what he thought about the game, what he thinks about the region, and their upcoming game against Salem Hills.
We came out and started right off. We controlled the game. That's the thing that we've been talking about each game. It's controlling it and making opportunities. We had 7 shots in the first half and 3 went in. They only had 4 shots the whole game. So we kept control of the ball, made sure we created opportunities for one another. Our boys are very unselfish in their play, and they're a fun group of boys to watch. A lot of it goes to the boys. The boys are doing what they need to do. They come in, they focus every game. They know that, we have a tough region. We got Salem Hills next. Maple Mountain's a good team. Park City's a good team. And we've got to keep playing up at a high level in order to beat these guys. And they're going to continue. So Salem Hills on Thursday. It's going to be another hard-fought fight. Park City plays Salem Hills today, so we'll be interested to see what the outcome in that is. And then it's on from there. And then, we have Provo. And then the region starts over, and it's another battle. It's going to be battle every game for these boys. And our goal is to get to state, and they know what it takes to get there. So we concentrate on every game. We don't look past anyone. I mean, Spanish Fork, it hasn't won a game yet, and they played us to a tie, and we went to a shootout. So it's just every game is going to be different. So you have to look at every game. You can't overlook anyone in this region, because this region is so strong and so tough. So we look at every game that we play, and we know what Salem Hills does, and tomorrow we'll come out and work on some strengths that we can do to play Salem Hills and make sure that the boys are ready and that their focus is on the next game, not the game 3 games from now, the next game. So Salem Hills.
So as we heard right there, Salem Hills is Wasatch's next opponent. Salem Hills right now is 3-4 on the season. Park City did end up beating Salem Hills 2-0 in their game. And again, Park City lost to Wasatch, so Wasatch is looking to be favored in the Salem Hills game. And as I said, Wasatch is #1 team in both Region 8 and 5A. Park City is tied for second in 5A and second in Region 8. Salem Hills is third, so this is a big match for Park City, or for Wasatch, facing #3 Salem Hills. And then Maple Mountain is 5th, so they're facing top 5 teams, and they're winning. They didn't win dominantly over Park City, but all the other opponents, they're pretty much, it's in the bag. Wasatch is proving to be the dominant team. And I think, one thing that really stood out to me with this Wasatch team, more specifically with the Park City game, but I also saw it with the Maple Mountain game, this Wasatch team doesn't get flustered. They don't get mad. They don't take their emotions out on the field. And that was shown, Park City, there was a lot of yellow cards. Wasatch didn't lose composure. With this game, Maple Mountain actually started to lose their composure. Their captain got yellow carded and had to go to the sidelines. Wasatch was just continuing to be there. Maple Mountain got a little physical, and Wasatch was like, hey, we're not going to back down, but we're not going to put ourselves where we are our own enemy. Wasatch is being very, very cool, calm, and collective, and I think you heard that from Coach Hendry right there. So again, Wasatch beat Maple Mountain 3-0. Their next game is against Salem Hills. That's going to do it for this segment of the Scoreboard. We have to take a commercial break, but when we come back, Ryan Kostecka is going to be talking to American ski jumper Sarah Hendrickson.
Hi, this is Ryan Kostecka with Park City Television, joined by Sarah Hendrickson. Sarah, thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Absolutely. Nice to be here.
So, let's get right into it. Arguably, one of the best ski jumpers of all time, one of Park City's top 34 athletes, and, you are now officially retired. Just when you hear those words, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was talking to my mom the other day, and I was like, everyone's using the R word, the retired word, where like in my post, if you'll see it's like I'm stepping away from being an athlete, because like the word retired is just, it's so wild to me. But yeah, I've been sitting on it for a while, to be completely honest. I reached out over the winter, over the fall. That was just like thanking a lot of people and just kind of covering all the bases, and then really taking my time to post about it and make it completely public. And of course, it's a little bittersweet, I guess, but super content with it. I've just been like overwhelmed with the amount of nice comments and people reaching out and complimenting me on my career. And not that you always need that, but it's a good reminder to just yeah, remind you how great the community is, how great everyone that was a part of my journey was, and that they're still not too far away.
I mean, so we won't necessarily use the R word, but is there any hope that maybe in the future you might come back to it, or are you kind of like you're going to move on to the next step of your life?
I'm most likely moving on, and I just say that because like the future is always uncertain. I mean, it's just right now I have no plans of competing. I do want to go off a ski jump sometime again in my life. But right now, no sights set on Olympics, World Cup. So just kind of focusing on some other things.
I mean, for someone like you've been in the spotlight since you were, a little one. That's all you've kind of known is that spotlight. Everyone knows who Sarah Hendrickson is. I mean, you go around Park City, it's Ted Liggety, Sarah Hendrickson. Everyone knows. I mean, talk about what the Park City community meant to you, and was it bittersweet reaching out to those people, who've helped kind of pave the way for your career?
Oh yeah, first and foremost, I mean, I would not be a ski jumper without the Park City community. And, that comes from the legacy that they built from the 2002 Olympics. That comes from the Youth Winter Sports Alliance, Park City Nordic Ski Club, all those little organizations that just kept pushing for kids to stay involved in sports at an affordable rate. My parents moved to Park City in the 90s and before it, blew up as Mountain Town. And it's just, it's amazing that they made it possible for middle class families to be involved in these quote unquote like high more expensive sports. And then just the people that I met along the way and the supporters in the community, whether they had kids in the program, whether they didn't have kids in the program, it just seems like there was never ending support. And it didn't matter if you had good results or bad results. It seemed like everyone showed up regardless. And that's really huge.
I came around in 2019, so I never actually got to see you compete or cover you competing. But, as, I got to know you and wrote stories, you could sense that, when you moved to Colorado, you took that break away for the back surgery. You kind of found this peace within yourself, that it was peaceful. I know you and Torden have a great relationship and you kind of found peace, helping him through his injury. Is that kind of, the time period when you realize, hey, maybe I want to go into healthcare industry? I mean, I know you loved taking care of him. That was huge for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I took a break after 2018, it was purely, I was just, I don't want to say I was burnt out because I still love the sport, but like my body was hurting and like, it was just like, I need to find my passion again. And so when I moved to Colorado, I fell back in love with winter sports. I got to alpine ski, I got to alpine tour, cross country ski, whatever. And through that year, 2018, 2019 was when my boyfriend Torren broke both his feet. So I was thrown into that, help at home and just that caretaker role. And it's hard when it's someone that you love, but I really, really love helping people. And I keep saying this again and again, is like being an athlete, especially in an individual sport, like you do have to be really selfish.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like a rude way, but like you're always concerned about, are you getting your workouts in? Are you getting your rest in? Are you getting your nutrition in? Like all these things that is solely focused on you, because at the end of the day, you're the person that has to perform. And so these last couple of years, I just really, really want to help other people and stop focusing on myself, because it's just been so absorbent for, 15 years internationally competing. And at the end of the day, I just love helping people. And I think that's why I got my nickname on the team as Team Mom, because I've done it since literally the age of 12 or 13 when I first started traveling. It was Sarah doing the laundry. It was Sarah, picking up the pieces, because it was just in me.
So, I mean, most professional athletes, when they retire, I mean, it's kind of like the end of their career. It's, they're 40, 50, they're way older. You are still extremely young. Is it nice knowing that you still have so much of your life left? And then also kind of moving forward into that, what really is the next step for Sarah Hendrickson?
Yeah, I guess I still am young. I mean, I'm 26, which doesn't feel that young anymore, but, different sports retire at different times. And yeah, I'm really, really excited for the future, and like specifically because I'm still so heavily involved in the sport on the political side and a little bit on the coaching side. And so I'm never going to be too far from that community. And I think the hardest part about retiring maybe is losing some of that community. So if I can stay involved that way, then that'll kind of fill the cup. And then my next step, I just got accepted into nursing school, which is it's so amazing. I'll be doing it at community college out here in Colorado. And so we'll still be living with my boyfriend here and exploring the mountains like I love to do. But again, coming back to that, I want to help other people. I'm very much interested in the medical world and become a RN, and then definitely will probably move up to a BSN and maybe a nurse practitioner. So we'll see where the journey begins or where the journey ends, but it's definitely beginning this August at nursing school. And I couldn't be more excited to go through that.
When you look back on this 10, 15 years from now, there are going to be young female, young male athletes in Park City coming up who know who Sarah Hendrickson is. They know everything that she's accomplished. But more than that, I think the most impressive part is that she's making a life outside of the sport afterwards now, in the healthcare industry, very politically involved with the sport and helping expand that sport. Basically, you're a role model for them. Is that still, what does that mean to you when you hear that?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, something my mom ingrained in me since the beginning was I don't care what your results are, but you must remain, loyal, a good sport, a mentor, a good role model. All those things matter way, way, way more than results. And so, of course, I don't do things to, always please other people, but it makes me super happy that people will look up to me and just pursue their dreams, whether it's in sport or whatever it is. Just, when I started ski jumping, there was no hope of going to the Olympics because women ski jumpers weren't allowed in the games. And then, I was able to compete in 2 Olympics and world championships and, all these amazing things. So, I mean, my line of advice is just find your passion. It doesn't really matter what it is, but if you have that passion, you're going to go so far.
Well, on a personal note, I want to thank you. You were the first professional athlete I got to cover in Park City, the first one I got to interview and write a story about. So I want to thank you for always, helping me and stuff and explaining the sport to me. So thank you from that end. But
absolutely.
But also, move forward. I wish you nothing but the best of luck. I'll still be following along. Obviously, I want to follow along Torrin's career. I can't wait to see what he keeps doing. But thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And, we wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And again, thanks to the Park City community for everything they do for their athletes and just creating an atmosphere where kids can get involved in sports. It doesn't matter how far they go. It just giving them that exposure to learn through sport with self-confidence, to team leaders, and sportsmanship is something that carries on way, way, way beyond just the sports field. So Park City is doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to be involved for many years to come.
Thank you so much for that interview, Sarah, and thank you so much for conducting that interview, Ryan. We have to take a commercial break here on the Scoreboard, but when we come back, we're going to be checking out Park City Boys Lacrosse. Welcome back to the Scoreboard, everybody. I'm Conrad Iacobellis, and right now we are talking Park City Boys Lacrosse. Coming off 2 crushing defeats, one against Corner Canyon at a score of 20-10 and one against American Fork at a score of 14-12. Park City looks to rebound against Springville, and they ended up beating Springville 30-1. This was an absolutely dominant game by Park City, but in all fairness, it was expected to be a dominant game by Park City. Springville is a very, very, very new lacrosse program. They are not a lacrosse powerhouse. They are not a lacrosse team like Park City is. So the fact that it was 30-0 is, a generous win by Park City. Overall, this is kind of a bittersweet game. And we're going to hear from Coach Persky in a little bit on his thoughts and opinions about the game, because coming off 2 losses, one against Corner Canyon, who is one of the top teams, if not the #1 team in Utah, and coming up against a heartbreaking defeat against American Fork, where I talked to Persky after this game, and he said, against American Fork, we beat ourselves. We were undisciplined. We put ourselves in a position where we lost that game. After those 2 games and coming into a game like this, where you're facing a brand new program, most of these Springville kids probably haven't even been on the lacrosse field combined the total amount as one Park City kid has. It's kind of a bittersweet game to have. Yes, you come out and win 30-1. Yes, you have an absolutely dominant game. Yes, you're able to play some of your backups and some of your reserves in this game because of how new Springville is. But you kind of don't like having that easy of a game coming off two very, very difficult games against Corner Canyon and American Fork. And anyway, it was interesting because you could tell that the boys, they were just excited to get out there and be on the field and to have a win again. And, I think they were trying to work on some basics and maybe, not be showboaty at all. You can see they're passing it around a lot more. They weren't attacking as much. And I think, we'll hear from Persky in a little bit, but, they were trying to back off against Springville a little bit, work on the more fundamentals, work on being a team. So, set up plays, see what works and everything. That's basic stuff. That's stuff that you work on in practice. You don't like to necessarily have to work on that stuff in games, but, I think the one takeaway from this is the fact that, they got to play some of their reserves. They got to play some of their backup team during this Springville game. Park City is now, after this win, this 30-1 victory, Park City is ranked number 12 and Springville is ranked number 53 in Utah, so that shows you the difference. Park City is number 189 nationally ranked. Park City coming up will face Provo, who is 1-4. Provo is another very new lacrosse program, so it should be another, I don't want to say easy win, but it's probably going to be an easy win for Park City. And then the game after Provo is probably the one that Park City is circling. It's against Davis. Davis right now is 5-0. They are dominant in 6A. They are actually the number 4 ranked team in Utah, and nationally they're number 42. They're a top 50 team in Utah. As I said, Park City is number 189 nationally. So I think that Davis game is going to be very important for Park City, but after coming off of Springville and Provo games where they're new programs, that Davis game might actually be pretty difficult for them. Let's catch up right now with Coach Persky to see what he thought about the Springville game.
Hey, look, I think the boys were ready to play. I think they had a lot of pent-up energy as a result of the losses, and they came out really strong. I think that this game wasn't really reflective of what we can do or what we should be able to do. Springfield's a new program. I think they did a great job coming out here and doing their best, but they're not the competition that we really want to hold ourselves up against too. Provo's also a very new program, a young program. I think it's great for the state of Utah and lacrosse that these schools are getting involved in lacrosse. We want to do our best to encourage that, and we look forward to that game.
I want to thank Coach Persky for that interview. And I'm just going to give a little clap to Springville because I've been on that side where I've been on a team that's been absolutely dominated. And it's not fun to lose 30-1, but I will say I got to give it to Springville. They were congratulating each other. They were encouraging each other. They were rooting on their team. And to see that speaks a lot for the Springville program because, again, I've been on that side where I've lost 30-1 in baseball, and it's not fun at all, and you can talk trash and you can just feel depleted. Springville was continuing to show emotion, energy, and we're being a good program and good sportsmanship. So again, Park City's next game is against Provo. That's going to do it for this episode of The Scoreboard. I've been your host, Conrad Iacobellis. Make sure you check out our reruns every Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m. and 12 p.m. and check us out for a brand new episode on Tuesday at 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.